I stared at the little plastic stick in my hand, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and disbelief. 2 pink lines. Pregnant. After months of trying, it had finally happened. A wave of joy washed over me as I imagined holding our baby in my arms, Dean's eyes sparkling with pride and love. I couldn't wait to tell him the news. Dean had been so supportive throughout our journey, never losing hope, even when I felt discouraged. He was going to be an amazing father. As soon as he walked through the door that evening, I rushed to greet him, practically bouncing with anticipation. "Dean, I have something to tell you," I said, unable to contain my smile. He raised an eyebrow, his expression curious. "What is it, honey?" I took a deep breath, savoring the moment. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air, and for a split second I saw a flicker of surprise cross his face. But then his expression hardened and a cold, unfamiliar look settled in his eyes. "That's impossible," he said flatly. My heart sank. "What do you mean? We've been trying for so long and the test was positive." "I'm sterile, Marla." His words cut through me like a knife. "I can't have children." I stared at him, my mind reeling. Sterile? How could that be? He had never mentioned anything like that before. But why didn't you tell me?" I stammered, tears welling up in my eyes. Dean's jaw tightened. "Because I didn't think I needed to. But now it's clear what's really going on here." A sickening realization dawned on me as I saw the accusation in his eyes. "Dean, no, you can't possibly think I would. You've been unfaithful, haven't you?" he spat, his voice dripping with venom. "That's the only explanation for this." I recoiled as if he had slapped me. "How can you say that? After everything we've been through together?" He shook his head, his expression hardening further. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Tears streamed down my face as I tried to process the sudden shift in our reality. Just moments ago, I had been filled with such joy and hope, and now it felt like my world was crumbling around me. As if the situation couldn't get any worse, something caught my eye. An old, leather-bound book peeking out from a box in the corner of the room. Curiosity and desperation drove me to investigate, and as I flipped through the pages, a shocking truth began to unfold. The diary belonged to Dean's grandmother, and within its pages, I found entries hinting at a long-held family secret. Dean's sterility had been known for generations, but his parents had gone to great lengths to conceal it, manipulating situations and people to maintain the illusion of normalcy. I felt sick to my stomach as I realized the depth of the deception. Dean's own family had lied to him, robbing him of the chance to come to terms with his condition and make informed decisions about his life. And now that same web of lies was threatening to tear us apart, casting doubt on the very foundation of our relationship. As I clutched the diary, a newfound determination took root within me. I would not let this secret destroy us. I would find a way to unravel the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Because in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. The love I felt for Dean and the life we had built together was worth fighting for. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I was trapped in a waking nightmare. Dean's accusations still rang in my ears, and the weight of the family secret I had uncovered threatened to crush me. I knew I couldn't face this alone. Steeling myself, I called my parents and asked them to come over. As difficult as it was, I needed their support and guidance. When they arrived, I could see the concern etched on their faces. "Marla, what's going on?" my mother asked, her voice trembling slightly. I took a deep breath and laid everything out for them. The pregnancy, Dean's revelation about his sterility, and the damning entries in the old family diary. As the words tumbled out, I watched their expressions shift from confusion to shock to something darker. Doubt. "Are you sure about this, honey?" my father said, his brow furrowed. "It's a serious accusation to make against your husband's family." "I know how it sounds," I pleaded, "but I swear I'm telling you the truth. Dean accused me of being unfaithful, and then I found this diary that suggests his parents have been hiding his condition for years." My mother's eyes widened. "But why would they do that?" Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Dean standing there, his expression a mix of anger and anguish. And behind him, like a looming shadow, was his mother, Evelyn. "Marla," Dean said, his voice strained, "we need to talk about this." Evelyn stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she looked at me. "Yes, we certainly do. I can't believe you would stoop so low as to accuse my son of such things." I recoiled at the venom in her tone. "Evelyn, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just trying to understand what's going on." "What's going on is that you've been unfaithful to my son," she spat. "And now you're trying to cover it up with these ridiculous lies about our family." My parents shifted uncomfortably behind me, and I could sense their doubts growing stronger. Evelyn's words carried a weight of authority, and I realized she was a master at manipulation. "That's not true," I insisted, my voice wavering. "I found a diary that suggests you've known about Dean's condition all along and have been hiding it." Evelyn's eyes flashed with anger. "How dare you? That diary is nothing but a pack of lies written by a bitter, jealous woman who couldn't stand to see our family's happiness." I opened my mouth to protest, but she cut me off. "And let's not forget your husband's previous marriage," she continued, her tone dripping with disdain. "His ex-wife got pregnant almost immediately after they wed. Isn't that proof enough of his condition?" My heart sank as I saw the doubt creeping into my parents' expressions. Evelyn was skilled at twisting the narrative, and I could feel the walls closing in around me. "I can't believe you're taking her side in this," Dean said, his voice laced with hurt. I looked at him, my eyes pleading. "Dean, please, you have to believe me. I would never betray you like that." But the damage was done. Evelyn had sown the seeds of doubt, and they were taking root in the minds of those closest to me. I felt utterly alone, trapped in a web of lies and mistrust that threatened to suffocate me. As Evelyn and my parents continued to argue, their voices swirling around me like a tempest, I realized that this was just the beginning. If I wanted to clear my name and expose the truth, I would have to fight, not just for myself, but for the love and trust that had once been the foundation of my marriage. And in that moment, I vowed to do whatever it took to unravel the tangled threads of betrayal that had ensnared us all. After the confrontation with Evelyn and my family, I felt like I was drowning in a sea of doubt and betrayal. The only lifeline I had was the old diary and the glimpses of truth it offered. I pored over its pages, desperate to unravel the tangled web of lies that had ensnared us all. As I read through the entries, a sickening pattern emerged. Evelyn had known about Dean's sterility from the beginning, but instead of accepting it, she had made it her mission to conceal it at all costs. She had manipulated situations, people, and even her own son's life to maintain the illusion of a perfect family. The diary revealed how Evelyn had orchestrated Dean's failed first marriage, driving a wedge between him and his ex-wife when she became pregnant too quickly. It was all part of her twisted plan to protect the family's honor, even if it meant sacrificing her son's happiness. I felt physically ill as I realized the depth of Evelyn's deceit. How could a mother be so cruel, so consumed by her own pride and desire for control? In that moment, I knew I couldn't face this alone. I needed someone in my corner, someone who understood the true nature of Evelyn's manipulations. That's when I thought of Gladys. Gladys had been a close friend of Evelyn's years ago, but their friendship had ended abruptly under mysterious circumstances. If anyone could shed light on Evelyn's true character, it would be her. I called Gladys and arranged to meet her at a local cafe. As soon as she saw me, her eyes widened with concern. "Marla, dear, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I took a deep breath and launched into the whole sordid tale, Dean's accusations, the diary, and the revelations about Evelyn's manipulations. Gladys listened intently, her expression growing darker with each passing moment. "I should have known," she muttered when I finished. "Evelyn was always obsessed with maintaining appearances, no matter the cost." She went on to recount stories of Evelyn's controlling behavior, how she had always insisted on having the final say in every aspect of her children's lives. It was as if she viewed them as extensions of herself, rather than individuals with their own hopes and dreams. "I enabled her for far too long," Gladys said, her voice heavy with regret. I turned a blind eye to her machinations because I didn't want to rock the boat. But now, seeing the pain she's caused you and Dean, I can't stay silent any longer. Gladys reached across the table and took my hand, her eyes shining with determination. "I'll do whatever I can to help you expose the truth, Marla. Evelyn's reign of deceit has gone on for far too long." As I looked into Gladys's kind, resolute face, I felt a newfound sense of strength. I wasn't alone in this fight anymore. With her support and the evidence from the diary, I knew I had a chance to unravel the lies that had bound us all for so long. And in that moment, I made a vow. I would stop at nothing to bring Evelyn's manipulations to light and reclaim the dignity and trust that she had so callously stolen from us. After my conversation with Gladys, I knew I couldn't go back to the life I had before. The weight of Evelyn's deception was too heavy, and the cracks in my marriage too deep to simply ignore. I needed space, a safe haven where I could process everything and decide my next steps. Gladys didn't hesitate when I asked if I could stay with her for a while. "Of course, dear," she said, enveloping me in a warm embrace. "You're welcome here for as long as you need." As I packed my belongings, my mind kept drifting back to the early days of my relationship with Dean. Had Evelyn's manipulations been present even then, subtly shaping our path? I thought back to the way she had insisted on an extravagant wedding, far beyond our means at the time. Had that been her way of asserting control from the start? And what about the pressure she had put on us to have children right away? Was that just another ploy to further her twisted agenda? With each memory that surfaced, I felt a growing sense of anger and betrayal. How much of our life together had been tainted by Evelyn's lies and machinations? Gladys could see the turmoil brewing within me. "You know, Marla," she said gently, "Evelyn has always been like this. Even when we were friends, I could see the way she tried to control every aspect of her children's lives." She shook her head, a pained expression crossing her face. "I should have spoken up, tried to stop her, but I was too much of a coward back then." I reached out and squeezed her hand. "You can't blame yourself, Gladys. Evelyn is the one who chose to live a lie, no matter who got hurt in the process." Gladys smiled sadly. "Still, I'm grateful for the chance to make things right, to be there for you in a way I couldn't be for Dean." As the days passed, Gladys became my rock, my confidant. She listened patiently as I poured out my frustrations, my fears, and my determination to confront Evelyn and Dean with the truth. With her support, I felt my resolve growing stronger, like a steel cable being forged in the fires of betrayal. One evening, as we sat together on the porch, sipping iced tea and watching the sunset, Gladys turned to me with a serious expression. "Marla, I know you're hurting, and you have every right to be angry, but I want you to promise me something." I met her gaze, curiosity and a hint of trepidation flickering within me. "Promise me that when you confront Evelyn, you won't let her manipulations get to you. Don't let her twist the narrative or make you doubt yourself. You have the truth on your side, and that's a power she can never take away from you." I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I promise, Gladys. I won't let her win this time." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the porch, I knew that my path forward would be anything but easy. But with Gladys by my side and the strength of my convictions guiding me, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The time had come to unravel the threads of Evelyn's deceit, one strand at a time, until the truth was laid bare for all to see. With each passing day, my determination to expose Evelyn's web of lies grew stronger. The more I delved into the diary's pages, the more shocking revelations I uncovered. It was as if a veil had been lifted, allowing me to see the true extent of her manipulations. One afternoon, as I pored over the diary, a familiar name caught my eye, Mrs. Wilkins. She had been a close friend of Evelyn's years ago, but their friendship had ended abruptly under mysterious circumstances. Could she hold the key to unraveling more of Evelyn's secrets? I tracked down Mrs. Wilkins's address and paid her a visit, my heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and determination. When she opened the door, her eyes widened in surprise. "Marla? My goodness, it's been years. What brings you here, dear?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. "Mrs. Wilkins, I need to ask you about Evelyn." Her expression darkened, and she ushered me inside. "I should have known this was about her," she muttered. As we settled into her cozy living room, I laid out everything I had discovered, the diary, Evelyn's manipulations, and the devastating impact it had all had on my marriage. Mrs. Wilkins listened intently, her brow furrowed. When I finished, she let out a heavy sigh. "I can't say I'm surprised, Marla. Evelyn has always been a master of deception, willing to sacrifice anyone and anything for her own twisted sense of pride." She went on to recount stories of Evelyn's controlling behavior, how she had always insisted on having the final say in every aspect of her children's lives. It was as if she viewed them as extensions of herself, rather than individuals with their own hopes and dreams. "Our friendship ended because I finally saw her for who she truly was," Mrs. Wilkins said, her voice laced with regret. "I confronted her about her manipulations, and she couldn't handle the truth being exposed. She cut me out of her life, just like that." As I listened to Mrs. Wilkins' words, a newfound sense of clarity washed over me. Evelyn's actions weren't born out of love or concern for her family. They were rooted in a deep-seated need for control, a desperate desire to maintain an illusion of perfection at any cost. It was then that I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let Evelyn continue to weave her tangled web of lies, ensnaring anyone who dared to challenge her. It was time to confront her, to lay bare the truth for all to see. But I couldn't do it alone. I needed allies, people who had seen Evelyn's true colors and were willing to stand up against her manipulations. That evening, when Dean came knocking at Gladys' door, I was ready. I opened it and looked him square in the eye, my resolve unwavering. "Dean, I know the truth now, and I'm going to expose your mother's lies whether you help me or not." He recoiled, his expression a mix of shock and guilt. "Marla, please, I don't know if I can go against her like that." I shook my head, my jaw set. "Then you're just as much a victim of her manipulations as I am, but I won't let her control me any longer." With that, I turned and began making plans for a gathering, a reckoning of sorts. I would invite Evelyn, our families, and anyone else who had been touched by her web of deceit. And there, in front of them all, I would lay out the evidence, the testimonies, and the undeniable truth. It was time for Evelyn's reign of lies to come to an end, once and for all. The day of the gathering arrived, and I could feel the weight of anticipation pressing down on me. This was it, the moment of reckoning, where I would finally expose Evelyn's web of lies and reclaim the truth that had been stolen from us all. Gladys's living room had been transformed, the cozy space now filled with an array of chairs and a makeshift podium at the front. One by one, the guests began to arrive. My parents, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. Mrs. Wilkins, her face set in grim determination. And finally, Dean and Evelyn, the latter's eyes narrowing as she surveyed the scene. As Evelyn took her seat, her gaze locked onto mine, and I could see the challenge in her eyes. She was daring me, silently taunting me to try and unravel the carefully constructed facade she had built around her life. But I was ready. I had spent weeks gathering evidence, poring over the diary's pages, and speaking to those who had witnessed Evelyn's manipulations firsthand. This was my moment, and I would not let her intimidate me. I stepped up to the podium, my hands trembling slightly as I arranged my notes. Taking a deep breath, I began. "Thank you all for coming today. I know this gathering may seem strange, but I promise there is a purpose behind it." I paused, my gaze sweeping across the room, lingering on Evelyn's impassive face. For too long, we have been living under the shadow of lies and deception. A web of secrets, carefully woven by one person, has threatened to tear our families apart. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and I could see the confusion and curiosity etched on their faces. "That person is you, Evelyn," I said, my voice ringing out with newfound strength. "You have spent years manipulating those around you, all in the name of preserving your twisted idea of family honor." Evelyn's eyes widened, and she opened her mouth to protest, but I held up a hand, silencing her. "I have proof," I continued, brandishing the diary. "This belonged to your mother-in-law, and within its pages she details the lengths you went to in order to conceal Dean's sterility." Gasps echoed through the room, and I saw Dean's head snap up, his eyes wide with shock. "You orchestrated his failed first marriage, driving a wedge between him and his ex-wife when she became pregnant too quickly. You saw it as proof of his condition, and you couldn't bear the thought of your family's imperfection being exposed." Evelyn's face had gone pale, her lips pressed into a thin line, but I wasn't finished. "And when I became pregnant, instead of celebrating the joy of a new life, you immediately accused me of infidelity. You couldn't fathom the idea that your carefully constructed lie might crumble." I turned to Dean, my heart aching for the pain I knew he must be feeling. "Dean, your mother has controlled every aspect of your life, robbing you of the chance to come to terms with your condition and make your own choices. She has treated you like a possession rather than a human being with hopes and dreams of your own." Tears glistened in Dean's eyes as the weight of my words sank in. Evelyn, meanwhile, had risen to her feet, her face contorted with rage. "How dare you?" she spat, her voice trembling with fury. "You have no idea what you're talking about, you ungrateful little—" But her words were drowned out by a chorus of voices, a cacophony of outrage and disbelief. Mrs. Wilkins, my parents, even Gladys, they had all seen the truth laid bare, and they were not going to let Evelyn's lies stand any longer. As the confrontation reached its peak, with Evelyn's manipulations unraveling before our very eyes, I felt a sense of vindication wash over me. The truth had been set free, and there was no turning back. In that moment, I knew that no matter what happened next, I had won. Evelyn's reign of deceit was over, and I had reclaimed the dignity and trust that she had so callously stolen from me. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where honesty and love would triumph over the twisted machinations of a woman who had lost sight of what truly mattered. The aftermath of the confrontation was like a whirlwind, emotions swirling around me in a dizzying vortex. As the shock of Evelyn's exposed lies began to settle, the true weight of what had transpired hit me with full force. Dean sat slumped in his chair, his face ashen, eyes fixed on the floor. The revelations about his mother's manipulations had shattered his world, leaving him adrift in a sea of confusion and betrayal. When he finally looked up at me, his expression was a haunting mix of anguish and shame. "Marla, His voice cracked, the words seeming to catch in his throat. "I'm so sorry. For everything." I felt a pang of sympathy for him, even in the midst of my own turmoil. He had been a victim of Evelyn's machinations just as much as I had, perhaps even more so. Reaching out, I placed a gentle hand on his arm. "I know, Dean. It's not your fault." Across the room, Evelyn sat rigid, her jaw clenched, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. The once formidable matriarch had been reduced to a shell of her former self, her carefully constructed facade crumbling around her. One by one, the others began to voice their outrage, their disbelief at the depths of her deception. Mrs. Wilkins, her face etched with a mix of anger and vindication, recounted the ways Evelyn had manipulated and controlled those around her, all in service of her twisted idea of family honor. My parents, too, added their voices to the chorus, expressing their shame at having doubted me, at allowing Evelyn's lies to cloud their judgment. Their words were laced with remorse, but also a newfound determination to support me, no matter what. As the emotional storm raged on, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The truth had been laid bare, and while the fallout was painful, it was also strangely liberating. The weight of Evelyn's lies had been lifted, and I was free to chart my own course, unencumbered by her manipulations. In that moment, I knew that my path forward would not be an easy one. The scars of betrayal ran deep, and the trust that had once been the foundation of my marriage had been shattered. But I also knew that I had the strength and resilience to rebuild, to forge a new life on my own terms. As the gathering began to disperse, Gladys pulled me aside, her eyes shining with a mix of pride and concern. "Marla, my dear, you were so brave today," she said, enveloping me in a warm embrace. "I know it couldn't have been easy, but you did what needed to be done." I nodded, blinking back tears. It was the only way. I couldn't let her control me anymore. Gladys smiled, her expression tinged with sadness. "I know, and now it's time for you to focus on healing, on finding your way forward." She paused, her gaze drifting over to where Dean sat, still lost in his own private anguish. "As for him, well, that's a journey he'll have to navigate on his own, but know that whatever path you choose, I'll be here for you every step of the way." As I looked into Gladys's kind, unwavering eyes, I felt a surge of gratitude. She had been my rock throughout this entire ordeal, a beacon of strength and support when I had felt adrift in a sea of lies and mistrust. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would not face them alone. With Gladys by my side and the love and support of those who truly mattered, I would find a way to rebuild, to reclaim the life that Evelyn's manipulations had nearly stolen from me. It would be a long and difficult road, but I was ready to face it head-on, armed with the truth and a newfound sense of resilience that no one, not even Evelyn, could ever take away. In the weeks that followed the explosive confrontation, my life underwent a seismic shift. The foundations I had built my world upon, my marriage, my trust in family, had been shattered, leaving me to pick up the pieces and forge a new path forward. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew that I couldn't continue living under the shadow of Evelyn's lies and manipulations. As much as a part of me still loved Dean, the betrayal ran too deep, the scars too raw. We needed space, time to heal and come to terms with the truth that had been revealed. Gladys was my rock throughout it all, offering her unwavering support and a safe haven as I navigated the emotional turmoil. With her guidance, I began the process of disentangling myself from the life I had known, severing the ties that had bound me to Evelyn's toxic influence. Dean, for his part, seemed adrift, struggling to reconcile the mother he had known with the manipulative, deceitful woman who had been exposed. I could see the guilt and shame etched into the lines of his face, the weight of realizing how deeply he had been controlled. "I'm going to seek help," he told me one day, his voice heavy with resolve. I need to work through all of this to understand how I could have been so blind to her machinations. I nodded, offering him a small, sad smile. I think that's a wise decision, Dean. You've been through a lot, too. As for Evelyn, she remained defiant, refusing to acknowledge the truth or take responsibility for the pain she had caused. Her once formidable presence had diminished, her aura of control replaced by a bitter, isolated existence. One by one, those who had once enabled her manipulations turned their backs, leaving her to stew in the consequences of her own actions. My parents, too, had undergone a transformation. The shame and regret they felt for doubting me had ignited a newfound determination to be the supportive, loving family I had always deserved. They rallied around me, offering a safe harbor as I charted my course towards a future free from Evelyn's toxic influence. And through it all, Gladys remained my steadfast companion, her wisdom and kindness a beacon guiding me through the storm. We forged a bond that transcended friendship, becoming more like family, the kind of family built on honesty, trust, and unconditional love. As the months passed, I began to find joy in the simple things again. The warmth of Gladys's embrace, the laughter shared over cups of tea, the quiet moments of reflection where I could appreciate how far I had come. I focused my energy on preparing for the arrival of my child, determined to create a loving, nurturing environment free from the lies and manipulation that had nearly torn my world apart. And when the day finally came, and I held my beautiful baby in my arms, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would be the author of my own story, crafting a narrative of resilience, strength, and unwavering love. As I gazed into my child's eyes, I made a silent vow. No more lies, no more secrets. This little life would grow up knowing the truth, surrounded by people who valued honesty above all else. Evelyn's twisted legacy would end with me, and in its place, a new generation would rise, one built on the foundations of trust, dignity, and the unbreakable bonds of family. It was a daunting task, but one I was ready to embrace with open arms. For in that moment, I knew that I had reclaimed the power to shape my own destiny, free from the threads of betrayal that had once threatened to bind me. The future was mine to write, and I intended to craft a story worth telling.